Jalen Green. That is the big topic of the day. Consensus top 3 basketball recruit. He was at number 1 in some of the services. He was number 2 in others, 3 at maybe one of them. But all in all, he was expected to go to college, and he was going to be a program-changing type of player. Said that he would have gone to Memphis, but he has picked the G League instead. Now, all that we had heard in the past was you go to the G League, you're making maybe $100,000, maybe less. And the idea initially was this is really a difficult spot for you to develop and to get drafted the next year if you're going to do this. Because they've talked about players doing this in the past. Guys come in, go to the G League, and then go and be drafted by whatever team. But you are playing against guys that are fighting for their career. You are playing against guys that are older, that have been around the block, and that were the talented high school kid that was going to come up and be drafted, right? Now, they're changing it up a little bit. What we have found out, thanks to Jonathan Gavoni and Adrian Wojnarowski, all of these guys, the G League is setting up a developmental team that is on. Now, typically, the league schedule, G League teams play 50-something games, whatever it is. Now, this team is going to play against some of those G League teams, but is only going to play like 20-something games a year. And these kids that come in this way are going to make north of $500,000 if they get offered a deal from the G League. Jalen Green is going to be making significantly more than that, from what we understand. Yep. This developmental team was put together by Sharif Abdur-Rahim, and they are going to use this to get kids into the NBA. Now, it's a little strange that they're doing it this year because all the rumors are that starting in 2021, they're just going to let kids be drafted out of high school back into the NBA. They were going to change the CBA.
I think a lot of the teams would rather it happen this way. Because if we think back of when we were able to draft high school kids, we all remember Kevin Durant, Garnett. We all remember Kobe. We remember those guys.
LeBron.
But we don't remember
the development.
The slew of kids that teams wasted draft picks on and just washed out.
Kendrick Perkins
destroyed a lot of franchises. Yep. It really hurt a lot of franchises.
And some of them ended up being fine.
For the fences for a kid that's, barely 18 years old.
Monte Ellis. There were just a ton of them, man. And they were all coming in and decided that I want to go on and get paid. And some of them had really good careers, and a lot of them, we don't even remember their names because they didn't pan out.
Most organizations, now if you've got the LeBrons, the Kobes, the KGs, then they're going to stand out. You're going to know that. But you're not swinging for the fence for a guy like that. You're just going to let them go to the G League.
Yeah.
And, the reason the G League has to up the price of what they're paying guys is because we know this from the FBI investigations and things coming out about college basketball is these kids are making a couple $100,000 to go to college for 1 year.
Michael jumped in and said Tracy McGrady. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them.
T-Mac was real good. But we remember their names because they were great.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you go back and relook at a lot of those early drafts, there were a lot of dudes that came out of high school that weren't very good at all. Didn't last in the league very long. Teams wasted assets, roster spots, money, salary cap. The organization tried to groom them, but they're 18. And it's just tough. It's just really tough.
I'm trying to Google every high school player ever drafted.
It's hard to do. You probably should have done that prep beforehand.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. Michael said, speaking of recruits, do either of you know what's going on with Zachary Evans? Maybe a topic for another show, just curious. Nobody knows what's going on with Zach Evans. He signed a letter of intent, and this is football talk. He signed a letter of intent with Georgia. Georgia then said they didn't want him. Then there was all this talk about maybe he goes to LSU, maybe he goes to Ole Miss, etc. The issue is people don't know if they can get him in school, for one. The other side is he's got a ton of character issues. He's a behavior problem. Just everything else. Now, he is talented. There's a reason he's a 5-star. He's ridiculously talented. But nobody knows whether or not they really want to deal with him. So, I mean, it is what it is. Nobody knows right now where he's going to go. Because he doesn't have to, like, commit or anything like that. He can show up on anybody's campus at this point and sign with them because Georgia let him out of his letter of intent. So, yeah, that's the deal with that. All right, so there's 44 kids that have ever been drafted out of high school. I'm not going to go through all of them. They've got a ranking of these guys, but it's really only like the top, 8 maybe that you're really going to know. Number 1 was LeBron James. Number 2, Kobe Bryant. 3, Kevin Garnett. 4, Dwight Howard. 5, Tracy McGrady. 6, Amari Stoudemire. 7, Monta Ellis. 8 was Lou Williams. And then you start getting into the ones that you don't really know.
Now, but so 8 of the 44.
Yeah. Rashard Lewis was 9. Jermaine O'Neal was 10. Al Jefferson, 11. Now, these guys all they made major money. Daryl Dawkins was 12. Josh Smith, 13. Al Harrington, 14. Andrew Bynum, 15. Forgot about him. Reggie Harding.
He was a bust.
Yeah. J.R. Smith. I didn't even remember that he came out of high school.
He's old.
Yeah. Eddie Curry came out of high school. Obviously, he had medical issues. Darius Miles, Gerald Green, Tyson Chandler, Andre Blatch, C.J. Miles, Sean Livingston, Sebastian Telfair. Oh, man, you remember Sebastian Telfair, right? Mm-hmm. His highlight reel was ridiculous. But either way, you get through these, and it's just like, okay. Now, the good thing is they came out of high school, and they made money, and they might have been exposed had they gone to college, right?
But here's the problem. All right, that's good for them.
But they also did not develop.
But if you're the owner of the league, if you're the general manager of the team, if you're the coach,
it's not good.
You wasted a year of a roster spot, a season, salary cap, all of these assets that are valuable to this team. This isn't football where you've got a 60-something man roster with the practice squad and all this other stuff. No, you're limited on how many people you got in basketball, and you're wasting them on shots in the dark on high school kids.
Yeah.
And you got no clue, are they going to pan out or not?
I think it's very interesting that the NBA is doing this, and I think if they are setting up this developmental team for the G League, what they're doing is saying, you know what, I know that it was rumored, I know we were talking about it, but we're not going to allow kids to be drafted out of high school yet. Like, if they want to go this route and not have to go to school, then they can do it if we think that they are ready enough to be in the G League.
Yeah.
But, how many are actually going to be, G League worthy, right? Like, that's kind of the big deal. So, we'll see. It's very interesting. I found it odd that he would announce, like, if I was going to college, I was going to Memphis.
Yeah, it just sounds very strange. If I was going to do something, I would have done this. Nope, nobody really cares because you're not. Yeah. We care what you're doing, not what your intentions to do was.
His father said that he was they would have been going through, tournaments and all this kind of he was at Prolific Prep, so he would have been playing in state tournaments and all this different stuff if there was a postseason, if it had not been for COVID-19. But because of COVID-19, it gave them the time to sit down and really go over options and whatnot, because otherwise, if it hadn't been for this pandemic, he would have been going to college. But he had more time to really think about what he was going to do and really research his options. And because of that, he decided he was going to go.
I don't know about that either. It's easy to say that now.
I'm just going by what they said.
Yeah. But the other thing is the G League just put together this developmental league thing recently.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
they haven't even announced it.
Wasn't a thing for him to go do.
Yeah. They haven't even announced it officially. Like, it's crazy.
So, that's the only issue with what, this option that he took wasn't an option for him realistically, a few months back.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. You are 100% right about that. Let's jump off of that topic. Let's get out of that one.
On that now.
Okay.
College basketball has to make some changes.
Oh, college basketball's in trouble if this is a thing.
Well, and listen, I think they can do one thing. Dan Wetzel has been all over this. He's talked about it for years. They can do one simple thing that can fix a lot of these issues, which is They go to the model that baseball and hockey and other sports have for college, which is let these kids align for the draft. And if they don't get drafted, let them come back and play college basketball.
Yeah.
This is the issue that we have. If you want to, last year alone, either last year or the last 2 or 3 years, whatever, Wetzel's done the math, 44 kids have left college basketball to go to the draft and didn't get drafted. Well, guess what? Now they're just out into the world. They are now ineligible to play college basketball anymore, but even though they've only used 1 or 2 years of eligibility.
Now, they can always obviously go to, they can go overseas, they can do whatever.
Yeah, but they can't play college. We're talking about trying to fix college basketball.
Yeah, no, agreed. We're not talking about the kids and whatnot. Like, if the kids really want to get out, then they can go play overseas, they can go do whatever. But they should be allowed, if they want to test the draft and really test it, not go out and, like, get information, but if they really want to go out and get tested, then they should be allowed to do that. I think we might have lost Chris here. Yep, it appears that we did. Not sure what's happening. But yes, if the kids really wanted to get tested, then, they should be allowed to be drafted or go into the draft. And if they're not drafted, they should be allowed to come back to school. So, we'll see what happens with that. But, yeah, it's just it's a crying shame. It's an absolute shame. I'm going to go on, while I don't have Chris, before he jumps back in, I'm going to get him. He should actually jump back in momentarily. Good gracious. Interesting. Let's see. He's telling me his computer told him, your computer restarted because of a problem. Oh, his computer's restarting. Okay, that's not that big of a deal. We'll get him back in momentarily. I'll continue the show. So let me make sure and tell him I'm keeping going. Jump back.